Hey everyone, and in this video we're gonna touch push and pull functionality in Axure. And push and pull functionality in Axure, if you haven't seen my video already on accordions, allows you to do something like this. As you can see, I have two expanding accordions, obviously, and I have a random object. If I expand just one, everything what's below it, because of the dimensions changing in that first item, is gonna be pushed or pulled if I collapse it like so. So that's the actual functionality for push and pull. You know, I'm gonna show you exactly how it's done really quickly, but I want you to kind of get most out of it, of where to use it and how to do it best. As an example, how I'm using push and pull here is, you can see I have a collapsed version of a dynamic panel ACC1, and inside I have the default, which is collapsed, and also content, which is expanded. In a collapsed one, I have a hotspot, which basically, I can just delete those because they're from other file, but basically it states that if I click on it, set the panel state of this dynamic panel into content, which is the bigger option, and then slide it down and additionally push and pull widget. And that's the most important bit. As you can see, it actually allows you to also animate it and maybe push it to the right instead of below, so you have that option to specify. Or if you would, let's say, reduce the size of a block, it would pull it from below or from the right. So it's quite simple logic to apply it. And so, you know, once you add that tick in that push and pull widgets, when you change, let's say, your set panel state, then you're able to push it like so, or pull it if you collapse it. And you can add it to as many items as you wish, because Axure basically interprets every object on the canvas as separate entity, and if something expands, it would just push everything down. How cool is that? So that's the simple option, you know. It doesn't matter, like now, if I would even add, let's say, another block or another object down below, and it doesn't matter where it is, it could overlap. Let's add a different color so you can actually see what I'm talking about, like this. And as you can see, they're maybe misplaced a little bit. And if we do the same, push and pull is gonna just push it both and remain the same exact sizing. So you can see a lot of application here, let's say even making accordions or making expanding menus. It's just, you know, a lot of different applications, because perhaps you're gonna make a big mega menu which is gonna drop down and push everything down. You can do it exactly like this. Or maybe you would want to do it to the right, which I want to cover in this video because it's a bit more tricky, but the same principle applies. So if we do something to the right, I'm gonna really quickly create an additional accordion just by reusing our existing thing. And I'm gonna make like a menu, kind of like you see. I'm gonna just resize it really quick, and imagine that this is a menu which goes for like 1000 pixels, and on, let's say, data visualization prototypes or products, you have, like, let's say, icons as a collapsed, and if you click on it, it could expand, let's say, to show more information. So this is something like that, what we're gonna try to achieve. Or maybe mouse enter even instead of clicking, and then it would push or pull everything else in the canvas to adapt it and make it like kind of like semi-responsive, right? So let me show you how it's done. I'm gonna speed up and just remake this one into that kind of icon panel. Boom! And so I created two states in that dynamic panel. As you can see, one is a menu, which is kind of like a collapsed icon based, and the second state is expanded with a text, right? There is no actions to it yet. I'm gonna use like a dynamic panel, like a hotspot on top, to actually add some actions. But before that, let me just check that I'm actually not adding any corners, so it's all sharp, like so. Boom, it's styled pretty well. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a hotspot to all of it, like so, let's say, and an interaction. So this is a collapsed version, so I'm gonna say on click, set panel state, account 1, and then to expand it. And we can animate in, but I want it to be instant, so it just flips. So I'm not gonna animate it in. And then I'm gonna push and pull widgets. and I'm gonna do it to the right. So I'm gonna demo it exactly how it's done. Now you can animate it, what's gonna happen to it, but I'm just gonna do it instantly so it's aligned. Or maybe actually let's do animation just to show you what's gonna happen. And then I'm gonna copy it, or actually copy the hotspot with that action to our expanded one. Like so. And that's gonna just collapse it. Let's see, default. And then push and pull widgets to the right again, so it collapses back. And boom. That we created like a simple dynamic panel, which is gonna push these two blocks. Imagine that these are basically our UI elements or some sort of charts. And now if we preview, as you can see, it's all positioned to the left. And if I click on it, boom. There is a little bit of a delay because we are animating it. So maybe it just needs to be faster, which is easy to fix. So let's say on click inside that panel, interactions. Instead of making it push-pull, let's make it 200, let's say. It's gonna be really quick. Well, it sort of works. I mean, you can play around with animations, but you get the drill. So now we can push and pull widgets back and forth. And I would also, for example, for this specific use case, which you would probably wouldn't want to have on click. We would want it on mouse enter. So I could just copy that behavior to mouse enter really quick across and just delete on click. And in an expanded state, you would have the same exact logic on mouse out. And then paste it in, delete it. And that's all good. So that's how you basically use it. As you can see, pretty good-ish. I mean, there is some glitch here and there, but not too bad. At some points, you might have a lot of different sticky items on a page. So you might have, let's say, an overlay or of sorts, or maybe a help button in a corner. And if you, let's say, if you resize, it might get pushed out of the canvas. And let me show exactly what I mean by that. So imagine if this is our canvas, which is pretty darn big. And then we have some sort of button, which shouldn't be pushed out for whatever reason, but it gets pushed out. So maybe this is our help button or something like that. If I would preview our prototype, because everything is getting pushed, even the button would get pushed and might overlap as well. So what we can do instead, so it's, you know, we can avoid basically a push-pull feature. So not everything gets pushed. I would just take it, create a dynamic panel, let's say, and let's say name it help badge. So it gets sticky. Or it doesn't have to be a badge maybe, but you might want to anchor it. You could go to style and pin to browser and just pin it to, let's say, to far right and bottom, like so. And now if we preview it, you're gonna see that I selected it there, but I could have positioned it anywhere. I could have positioned it here as well with the coordinates. It's really easy to do. And if I expand it, as you can see, it doesn't overlap. And even if it would be closer, our button would appear on top of it instead of below the object. So we're kind of making it a bit more fluid, and that's how we would avoid the push and pull functionality. Yet another way, because it's not the only way, if I just go outside, like so, let's say, is to take all these bits, which I have here, and just add to a dynamic panel without the button, which we want to avoid pushing, like so, and just pushing it down center back so that this is on top. And this is how we could do it as well, as you can see. So our button is there left, but because we put everything into dynamic panel, we restricted it into one block, because that menu and these are in one dynamic panel, and we're just pushing it like so. And everything else what's in dynamic panel in a separate instance on top of it is not going to be affected. So these are two ways to avoid it. Now, this basically summarizes push and pull functionality. You can achieve so much. You can make accordions to drop down and push everything down below. You can make slide-in menus, mobile menus to push everything to the right. You can also add instances where you avoid it. Like I said, you know, we can pin to browser or wrap everything in dynamic panel and just push on top of it or below it and then avoid it that way. So I hope it's useful, and I hope you know exactly why you would use push and pull functionality. As per usual, give a like, subscribe to his channel, leave a comment down below, tell your friend, and I'll see you next time.